Hi, Tina Peters here.
See, today they go after you if you're investigating that sort of thing.
Hello, and welcome to The Truth Matters. Today, this is Joe Hoft, filling in for Tina Peters, who's in prison now. God bless her. Please remember her in your prayers, as we all do. Lord Jesus, hold her tight, protect her, grant her safety, grant her peace of mind, grant her all that she needs to make it through today and every day until she's a free woman soon enough. Free again is what we're praying for Tina Peters. Dear Lord Jesus, hear our prayers. Amen. Amen. It's an honor to be here. I'm not somebody who normally prays on air, but this situation certainly warrants it. And I know you're with me. And thank you for for showing up here, following us, supporting us, and all that you do. We're really grateful. Anything you can do to help, really appreciate it. The truth tellers are being hammered right now, and a number of people. If you tell the truth, you're going to be attacked, and the better the truth, the more effective, the more true, the more they're scared, and the more they attack. And that certainly has happened to Tina Peters. I certainly think so. It's been a challenging situation to be in this business. I'm telling you, you share the truth, and you are a target. So Tina Peters is certainly a target. She sat in jail. Now she's been moved to prison, is my understanding. I haven't had an update for the last 3 or 4 days. So yeah, I heard last week, I believe it was, that she was moved to prison from jail, and it's just outrageous. We also know President Trump has instituted an investigation into what's going on here, really the abusive lawfare against her. We found out that, I didn't know this, that Merrick Garland and Chris Wray dialed into a call some time ago before Tina was arrested, is my understanding, to try to get an idea what was going on. It was pure intimidation. This is communist, fascist regime stuff. I was in St. Louis this past weekend, and that was a big part of my message, man. These fascists and Nazis and Maoists, these people, they don't like the truth. And you need to believe their truth. There's no alternative. They put themselves in God, and the people that work for them, who are short-sighted and happy to get a ham sandwich for lunch each day, that's what people will do. And it's just outrageous. What happened these last 4 years under the Biden regime was frightening, and it's still going on. It hasn't been eliminated. There's a lot of work to do still. We need to pray also for Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, Dan Bongino to start arresting people. Please, Lord, Dan and Kash, arrest somebody, please. I saw a picture the other day. Actually, Ann Vandersteel put it up in a tweet. It's no longer called the Gulf of America. It's called the Gulf of Arrest Somebody, please. It's like, what's going on here? So we've been blessed. We've been totally blessed with President Trump. We saw it when he stood up, and his ear there's blood everywhere, as he says, and we dodged a bullet, literally. And he's doing stuff that nobody else can. I just think nobody else can do what he's doing. He's very bright, has an incredible perspective on what needs to be done. He's a great listener, I think, more than anything. And he hears people, and he understands, after listening to people, what's going on. He's got a real pulse on what's really going on, like no politician we've ever seen. Maybe because he's really not a politician. But maybe he's chosen. And that's how we'll start today's show with Tina. And we've got a lot of faith that Tina's going to be out of that nasty prison soon. We're going to keep fighting for her. We're going to keep standing for her. And anyways, maybe the chosen one will get her out. Take a look at this.
So somebody had to do it. I am the chosen one. Somebody had to do it. So I'm taking on China. I'm taking on China on trade. And you know what? We're winning. because we're the piggy bank. We're the one that all these countries, including the European Union, wants to rob and takes advantage of. European Union, $200 billion. China, more than $500 billion. Sorry, I was put here by people. I was put here by people to do a great job, and that's what I'm doing.
We've never seen anybody like this. He's so fantastic. I am the chosen one. I believe and I'm all in. You're right. You are absolutely right. When you stood up and said, "Fight, fight, fight, President Trump," it was a moment that I'll never forget. I couldn't believe you were saying it. It took a while. I was like, "Is he cussing? What's he saying? Sounds like fight. Is he saying something else?" And it was fight, fight, fight. And I'm like, "Oh my God, that's what he said." And it still took a while just to soak to my soul. This saying, "fight, fight, fight," is going to go on for 2,000 years. It's going to be one of the most said three-word phrase ever. Mark my words. Mark my words. We're living in historic times, and but now we want justice. We want Tina out of prison, obviously, and we want the criminals thrown in prison. Here's Tulsi Gabbard talking about what's going on with the Russia collusion sham and what she's trying to do to get to the bottom of it. Pretty exciting when you listen to this. Take a look.
Is anyone ever going to be held accountable for abusing power to that level?
Well, that's the goal, Sean. That's the goal, is to find the evidence, find the documentation that proves this to be true. We've seen little bits and pieces of it that have been released publicly so far, but not anywhere near the extent of what the intent was behind this whole Russia collusion hoax. Obviously, the president was their #1 target. And there were also many other people around President Trump who were also targeted simply because they were friends of his or family members of his. We are digging deep to find everything that has been related to this. And I guarantee you there are some U.S. attorneys who are eager to see what we are finding, and in some cases are already working their own cases to bring about that necessary accountability. If no one is ever held accountable, we are going to continue to see this weaponization, politicization of the intelligence community, our law enforcement, the Department of Justice. And as you know, Sean, it completely undermines the rule of law and the American people's ability to have any trust whatsoever in these foundational principles of our country. And that's what we're trying to restore, that trust.
Beautiful picture of Tina there at the end. Tulsi Gabbard talking about Russia collusion and what they're doing. I'm telling you what, Dan Bongino and Kash Patel have both written books about the subject. They know what's going on. We want to see arrests. We want arrests now. We want everybody arrested. We are tired of waiting. No more John Durham. No more Bill Barr. Bring in the bar tab. None of that. We want arrests now. I hope to God, again, Lord Jesus, protect us. Get these people behind bars before they can damage this country any further. These are some of the worst criminals in U.S. history. They are treasonous, insurrectionists, and they need to be held accountable. And we could go through the list, starting with Obama on down, Biden, Hillary. The list goes on and on. Clapper, John Brennan, big target on his back. That guy might be the mastermind behind it all. How about Norm Eisen and Andrew Weissman? These monsters that have been destroying people's lives for decades. In Weissman's case, decades. A guy, Mike Sessa, is trying to get out of prison now after 33 years. He was put there by Andrew Weissman. I've been writing about him at joehoft.com. Feel free to go there and check out the stories there. We try to put some posts up every day, and then we share these interviews as well. So thank you for your support there. Also, if you haven't got my books yet on the 2020 election labeled The Steal, please go and get them. There's a picture of the website, joehoft.com. Got some big stories there we'll be talking about. If not in today's show, one with Ann Vandersteel will be joining us after this first segment, but in the Joe Hoft show, which will be following this. So lots going on. Here's a reminder, and this news came up yesterday. You know what I mean after we play the second clip, but watch this first clip. This is a guy by the name of Chris Krebs. He's an idiot, is what I understand. He had no business running the CISA. The only reason he was there is because he's He's corrupt. And President Trump instituted an investigation into this guy. He's the sleazeball after the 2020 election and comes out and says to the world, this was the most secure election ever. He's a creep. I believe he's a crook, and he's certainly corrupt. Watch this.
Surging coordination and collaboration with our partners across the national security space. In conclusion, because of these and other efforts, on November 12, 2020, government and industry representatives from the election security community issued a joint statement reflecting a consensus perspective that the 2020 election was the most secure in U.S. history. That statement reflects the confidence these officials gained based on years of work poured into improving the security and resilience of our elections. It was based on the strong operational relationships developed across the election security community. It was based on the tremendous partnership between CISA, under the thoughtful guidance of this committee, the FBI, the Election Assistance Commission, the Department of Defense, and the intelligence community. It was based on an intimate understanding of how our elections work here in the U.S. It was based on the increase in paper ballots and audits across the nation, and probably most importantly, it was based on the professionals, the heroes that conduct elections in this country. While elections are sometimes messy, this was a secure election. Of that, I have no doubt.
God, he's such a sleazeball. That guy is I'll just call him a liar. He is a liar. He is a filthy liar. He said that under oath, and it's wrong. It's not true. And I base that on years in the finance and the auditing industry. If you don't know, I was an executive overseas. I've done audits around the world. This election was not certifiable. That's why it was stolen. That's the thesis behind my books. I lay it out chapter after chapter. This election was not certifiable. And that clown, the buffoon, the idiot, and I believe the liar is there saying, oh, everything was fine. That's just disgusting. It's disgusting. And he's tried to lay that out. The people that he was talking about, no doubt, are Chris Wray, crook, criminal, one of the people involved in Russia collusion who needs to be put behind bars. These people need to be put behind bars now. We have the evidence. We have the evidence. We have the evidence. We have the evidence on the 2020 election. We have the evidence, FBI. I've shared this before. We have the evidence. This thing never should have been certified. It's pathetic. It's disgusting. It's a lie. And these people screwed over this beautiful, wonderful country. And yes, it's the chosen one that's helping us fix this. Thank God. Anyways, here's President Trump yesterday talking about Mr. Cribbs and his latest executive order pertaining to Mr. Corrupt Cribbs. Take a look.
Christopher Krebs, the former head of CISA. This is a man who weaponized his position against free speech in the election context, in the context of COVID-19. A presidential memorandum to the one you just signed. It assurances he might have, and further instructs your Department of Justice, other aspects of your government, to investigate some of the malign acts that he participated in while he was still head of CISA.
This is another one. I don't know that I met him. I'm sure I met him, but I didn't know him. And he came out right after the election, which was a rigged election, a badly rigged election. We did phenomenally in that election. Look what happened to our country because of it. Open borders, millions of people coming into our country. Russia and Ukraine, that would have never happened. October 7th would have never happened. Afghanistan, the way that they withdrew with 13 dead, but so many killed, actually. I mean, so many killed outside of the 13 soldiers, hundreds of people killed. And maybe, I don't know, never mentioned, but I mentioned it, 42 or 43 people so badly injured, the legs, the arms, blown off, the face. And this is all because of an incompetent group of people that preceded us, and that would have never happened. And this guy Krebs was saying, oh, the election was great, it was great. Well, it's been proven that it was not only not great. When you look at all these lawyers and law firms that are signing, giving us hundreds of millions of dollars, it was proven by so many different ways in so many different forms, from the legislatures not approving to the from all of the different scamming operations. It was a very corrupt election. They used COVID to cheat. And we're going to find out about this guy, too, because this guy's a wise guy. He said, we've been proved this is the most secure election in the history of our country. No, this was a disaster. And frankly, we should go to paper ballots, same-day voting, voter ID, and one other thing, you should get a little certificate that says you're a citizen of our country. You get a citizen piece of paper that says you're a citizen before you can vote. But you want voter ID and you want paper ballots, and you really want same-day voting. If you don't have same-day voting, they decide to change the air conditioner. Oh, we're fixing the air conditioner. Let's move all these boxes. We'll bring them back in a few days, and then they don't bring back those boxes. We got to have safe elections. We have to have borders. Ideally, we have to have a free press, which we don't have. We don't have a free press. We have a very dishonest press. This is an honor. We're going to find out whether or not he was right. This was a disgraceful election, and this guy sat back saying, well, I'm a member, or like he's a Republican or something, and almost right from the beginning. And he's tried to make the case that this election was a safe election. I think he said, this is the safest election we've ever had. And yet, every day you read in the papers about more and more fraud that's discovered. He's the fraud. He's a disgrace. So we'll find out whether or not it was a safe election. And if it wasn't, he's got a big price to pay. And he's a bad guy. Here's another one. I have no idea who he is. Krebs. I have no idea who he is. I'm sure he was in the room at some point, just like you're all in the room, but I have no idea who he was. So thank you very much. Those last two are very important, I think, for the country.
Fantastic. We're getting there. We're getting there, guys. I know it's not fast enough. We all want this yesterday. A lot of us have been persecuted, prosecuted, tortured by the media, the shadow ban, doxed, all this stuff. And it's time. It's time to bring justice, freedom, truth, and honor back to this country. It's long past due. So thrilled that President Trump signed off on that, and really thrilled. They're going after him. Here's Lara Logan had an interview with Mike Davis, attorney Mike Davis, the other day, and Davis, well, he's got words for these guys like Krebs and Christopher Ray Mueller, all these monsters, Weissman, etc., all these crooks in the election community. Here's what Mr. Davis has to say to them. Take a look.
When you use intel agencies and law enforcement to illegally go after your political opponents for non-crimes, that is the definition of a conspiracy against rights, a very serious federal civil rights felony under 18 U.S.C. Section 241. And so I would say to all of those people you just named and many, many others, lawyer up, because there's a new sheriff in town at the Justice Department in the name of Pam Bondi and Kash Patel and many others. And I am going to push very hard, very publicly, for them to open a federal criminal probe under 18 U.S.C.
How is it not already open?
Maybe it is.
I like that answer at the end. Maybe it is. We need to see some action, guys. We were smoked by Bill Barr, Rosenstein, Jeff Sessions, and John Durham, the last administration. We don't want that again. We want this fixed now. We want the criminals thrown in prison. We want them in prison. And I tell you what, if they committed treason, then let's consider all the various sentencing options. Some of these people, who knows where they should be, quite frankly. This is disgusting stuff what they've been doing to this country. Look at what China Joe did. Joe Biden, everything that happened under the Biden administration helped China. It was a communist takeover of the United States. We just found out overnight that that whole balloon thing that Biden let go over the U.S., they were more interested in protecting China's feelings than shooting the damn thing down, which any person with a right mind would have done. They allowed China to get all the information they needed. This thing flew over military bases, etc. It was disgusting. The Biden regime is toxic, and it's so wonderful to see somebody stand up against that regime. Chinese people are beautiful. They're beautiful. The regime is monsters. It's monsters, and they're the equivalent of some of these monsters that have been running this country over the last decade or more. Actually, Obama's team was just devastating to this country. Terrible. A lot of people get off on Bush and certainly Bill Clinton, but Barack Obama, to me, man, that guy he's just toxic. He hated this country. He still does. He wants to destroy it. Everything he does is to destroy it. We see Biden giving billions to Iran. None of that's never made sense to me. They are terrorists that have been killing people, killing U.S. soldiers in Iraq. I've talked to people. I've talked to a top guy at the FBI years ago saying that's who was killing our soldiers. It was Iran. Would sneak across the Iraq border and kill U.S. soldiers. That's what they did. It was disgusting. And then Obama's giving them money. Shocker. Real sick. Well, there's a lot of justice that needs to be done. I saw this piece this morning. And the good news is this assassin of President Trump that we captured, this Ruth guy, looks like they're able to move forward with the assassination investigation and jury trial because it doesn't have the Biden administration around balking and slowing everything down. Here's the Attorney General from Florida talking about what's going on now in that case.
I'm Attorney General James Uthmeier. On September 15, 2024, Ryan Ralph attempted to assassinate then presidential candidate Donald J. Trump at the Trump International Golf Club in West Palm Beach. Shortly after the assassination attempt, Governor DeSantis signed an executive order directing the Office of Attorney General to work with our law enforcement partners and investigate Mr. Ralph. After 206 days of stonewalling by the federal government that stemmed from days of the Biden administration, I'm able to now announce that my office is charging Mr. Ralph for the attempted first-degree murder of President Trump, as well as a charge for terrorism. My office, as well as our law enforcement partners, were met with major roadblocks in prosecuting this case during Biden's term. Biden and his attorney general sought to frustrate our efforts and block our investigation into the man who crossed into this state and attempted to commit political violence against a Florida resident. Thank God he was unsuccessful, and thank God we have Donald Trump as president again. The leadership of U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi and FBI Director Kash Patel was instrumental in preserving Florida's sovereign authority to do what is right and bring justice where it is due. We now have a federal government willing to work together to pursue justice. Attempting to take the life of a former president and a leading presidential candidate isn't just an attack on one man. This was a political attack against our Republican form of government and our shared American values. We cannot allow justice to be delayed or denied, and thanks to the President, our U.S. Attorney General, and the FBI Director, we are moving forward in our pursuit. Our statewide prosecutors will work to hold this evil man accountable and keep Florida safe, strong, and free.
Great news. Great news. So some good stuff happening. We're I'm really impatient. I'm not really liking all that's going on, but some great stuff happening. So God bless this country. God bless America. God bless all that's going on. And maybe one final note on the Biden regime. Let's bring this up again. I thought it'd be a great reminder right now. Basically, the question still remains, who ran the auto pin under the Biden administration? We don't know. There should be absolutely an investigation into that and find what really happened, because that too, in my mind, is treason and insubordination and an insurrection. To put somebody in place as a puppet and somebody else running it is not in our Constitution. That's not what we say. We vote for a president, not a hidden team off to the side. So we need to find that out. That's a big crime that these guys did. Take a look at this.
And you know what? They ought to find out who was using that auto pen, because whoever that person was, he or she was like the president of the United States. And I'm against auto pens. I think auto pens are not a good thing, especially when you're talking about documents like we're signing today. If he can't sign, then he can't be president. It's pretty simple. Let's see whether or not he could sign. But I think that should be tested. I really think that should be tested. It's another one. And you may think about it, because how can a man that, did he really know that when they gave all false information on the council, I mean, the whole unselect committee of political lunatics, they destroyed all the information. You can't get any information. They went for like a year and a half, almost 2 years, screaming and ranting and raving. Democrats plus two worse than Democrats.
President Trump's right. What happened there? They destroyed half the information. What'd they leave? What'd they destroy? These guys are monsters. They are monsters. They don't care. They're going to get, to date, they've gotten away with it. We find out they're getting away with it since JFK. We haven't even gotten all the JFK files yet. So we want it all. We want it all. We don't want, we're tired of this stuff. Mr. President, you are the chosen one. Get it, get it fixed. Get this, get everything out. Go over there and get the stuff yourself if you have to. We're tired of this. Send J.D. Vance over there and Pete Hegseth. Get it. We're tired of this. We want everything out in the open. We want transparency. We want transparency in our elections. We want transparency in everything else. This government works for us, not us working for them and sending them money so they can steal it and rob us blind. We don't want that anymore. No more. So yes, Mr. President, please bring some justice. And being on this show, I'm always reminded, I'm glad and honored to be here. I'm just so reminded that we've got to get Tina Peters out of prison. It is a nightmare that she's there. She did nothing wrong. She's committed no crimes. Again, the people there that put her there, they've committed the crimes. She was doing her job to collect information and maintain information per the law related to the elections, both federal and state, and instead she gets thrown in prison. Unbelievable. These sick people. I'm so glad President Trump's looking at her situation. We got to get her out of prison now. It's outrageous. It is outrageous. Now she's in prison. So lots of us to talk about. We're going to take a quick little break here, and then we'll be back with the great Ann Vandersteel, who's been a big supporter of Tina. And so we'll take a short break here, and then we'll be back with Ann right after this.
In every thread, in every stitch, Honor-Bound USA weaves the fabric of the American spirit. It's not just apparel, it's a testament to God, family, and country. At Honor-Bound USA, we're a family of patriots who put our faith, family, and America first. When you visit our website, you'll find a line of products that embody our commitment to pray, stand, speak, and act. As the official site for the Untamed podcast, all of our products proclaim speaking the truth with courage. We also have the powerful documentary from Professor David Clements, Let My People Go. Identify yourself as one of the few who are willing to stand for what they believe in. Join the Honor-Bound USA family today. Wear it as a badge of honor, commitment to the values that shape us, and a pledge to the bright future we will build together. Because when you're honor-bound, you're not just wearing a brand, you're embodying a lifestyle.
Hi, I'm Joe, Supreme Leader of DCF Guns. What is DCF Guns, you ask? We're the best damn gun store and range in the universe. Do we have guns? We have all the guns. We got small guns, we got big guns. We even have beastly guns. We offer all types of training, and we have 5 ranges across our 3 locations. I'm a good shot. And of course, we have all types of ammo. We even have flamethrowers. Woo! We offer incredible membership opportunities, and members save even more on guns, ammo, and accessories. Military, both active and retired, and first responders get up to 40% off memberships. Come join the DCF family today, where we keep the range hot and the deals hotter.
It's hot. It was around 10, 11 o'clock in the morning, and I received an email from PayPal. It showed in this email that there was a debit in my PayPal account that was going to be taken out. I don't remember following the link in the email even. I think I went straight to the PayPal account, and that pending debit was there. And it was for about $1,000, I believe, so it was a lot of money. So I called the phone number on that email. And it kind of, the way this guy was talking, I didn't even question what he was saying. And I've worked with computers for the past 40 years. And he just kept convincing me, and he was a legitimate person that was going to fix my computer, and I had faith in him that he was doing his job. I got in the car and I drove, and I was just thinking, this isn't right. I've given this guy enough money to buy like 2 computers. So I came home and I just thought about it some more, and I called my wife had come home. I was by myself. I had to fix the computer, fix my phone, change my bank accounts, change all of my passwords. I mean, I went through like 2 weeks of going through everything I owned, changing everything that I had because of this guy calling me for those 2 or 3 hours. How did I fall for this? And it was a very traumatic experience. I know I wasn't the only one out there that had fallen for this. Listen to yourself and think about it before you do anything, and don't just trust somebody, even though it's so believable somehow. I don't. If you feel comfortable getting a software to help you to find out, who might be that actually track these scams, do it. I mean, if they feel that's something important to you, do it.
Hey, we're back. This is Joe Hoft here, filling in for Tina Peters on the Truth Matters here at Untamed Nation. So glad you are here. God bless Tina. She's sitting in prison right now. We've got all these great Americans that are filling in for her, and I'm honored to be here. It's just an honor. She's such a hero for all of us. She shouldn't have to be going through this. It's not right. It's very unfortunate. There's just some real criminal element that's running half our country, quite frankly. I've talked this weekend at an event in St. Louis. Many of you know, if you've been following the Joe Hoft show over the past few weeks, I kept noting this event. I was going to be there with Ann Vandersteel. It was in St. Louis. Perhaps we can pull that up real quick, Apollo, if you don't mind. Show you a bit about the event. It was sponsored by United Sovereign Americans. That's Harry Hari and Marley Hornick. So spot on, in my opinion, with what they're doing in regards to protecting us all from election fraud. They have put together some major league lawsuits in some big states. They're getting monkeyed around. They've had some attorneys monkey around with them, which seems to be the norm. Some of these attorneys are just horrible. They take your money and run. And you almost wonder if that's the intent from the start. But they've had challenges with that, but they continue to fight on. They've got a great team. I met a number of people there, saw some people from Montana, from California, from New York, across the country. They were there. And it was just an honor to be there. And so I was invited along with Ann to come in as keynote speakers, and it was just a super honor. They talked about a lot of great stuff. My presentation during the afternoon was really kind of tying in what they're sharing with my background and with the books that I've written, which is the 3 books on the steel. A couple things I wanted to bring up during the presentation, which I did, and I can't wait to get the clip, and I want to share that as well at the Joe Hoft show, is that one, when we look at the corporate world on controls and processes for financials, and I went through this both as an auditor and as a head of a multi-billion-dollar entity, the financial reporting of that. This stuff has to be perfect. You have to outline everything that happens in regards to your financials and how that impacts the financials. And then you have to test it. And you have to do that every year. And it's called Sarbanes-Oxley legislation that came out in the early 2000s. So we can't have one control that's not in place. But in the election process, we did an analysis, this group that I started, Fate 2024, and we determined that a third of the controls are in place. Maybe. We don't even know if they're working right, but maybe they're in place out of 500 or so controls we identified that thought should be in place. Only a third are. Again, in the corporate world, everyone has to be in place. So that was one point. A second point that I brought up too was this thing that we labeled the election industrial complex. We found this document from this one nonprofit, and I can share that with you at joehoft.com. I put up a piece last week where I show this map. It's like 100 different entities. At the time, it's so complex, but you got a little button for Twitter and Facebook and all these entities, and they're all tied together, and it's all for the election. And now we're finding out of all these NGOs, everything's being paid by USAID, how many of these entities were being paid for by us to basically steal our elections away from us, from the media point of view to after the election and all in between. It's a mess. So those were a couple things I brought up, and it really, I think, tied in well with all the work they were doing. And then on Saturday night, we had the great Ann Vandersteel share her points, actually some constitutional items that I've never, I've never heard of before. I'm not a constitutional expert by any means, but it was real interesting. It was a great way to end Saturday. So without further ado, let me introduce to you none other than the great Ann Vandersteel, who's with us today on The Truth Matters. Welcome, Ann.
Joe, good to be with you. Thanks for having me. And yeah, I was listening to you going on about the United Sovereign Americans event in St. Louis, and what a tremendous group of people. This is what we're talking about. This is about Americans stepping up into their civic duty, which frankly, I don't know how much more clear our founding fathers could have been when they wrote those three really key words at the beginning of the greatest love letter ever, we the people, right? It's about we the people, and it's our Constitution, which frankly sits on my desk at all given times, and I reference it all the time, but it couldn't be more clear what our responsibility is and how simple the structure is of governance, and the fact that we permit these people to govern us. And right now they're making terrible mistakes. In fact, I feel like we're turning the Titanic around inside the Panama Canal for a lot of good reasons. I'm using those two euphemisms or those two examples, but we still have a lot of cleanup from aisle 46 and aisle 44 and 43 and 42 and 41 and gone down the road, going back decades. And it's an arduous process. But what we saw in that room was people setting aside their time, dime, and investing personally to solve the problems of election integrity, which is massive. And it's not about just changing votes in a machine. It's really about these dirty voter rolls and the fact that our votes are being canceled. True voter disenfranchisement, which is a civil rights violation. And that's why you have a constitution, to protect your civil rights. So it was an honor to be there. And I'm so sorry I missed your speech. That's the part that has me disturbed. I've been trying to go back and find the stream so I could watch what you said, because the accolades were great as I'm walking in on the tail end of it.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, you had a bit of a challenge, over the weekend as well, I guess, getting there. So I don't know if you want to mention anything about that or not, but interesting story.
It was just, I was crisscrossing back and forth across the country. It was just one of those things. But fortunately, the planes made it on time to St. Louis and made it on time home on Sunday. So it all worked out.
Well, great. Yeah, great. It was a great event. I really enjoyed being there. And like you said, the people there, were really sharp, really smart people, and they're giving up their time to help save this country. And another thing that happened on Friday as we came out with this big report, United Sovereign Americans and myself, about Orange County, California, and how this county has 1 out of every 5 voters is basically either invalid, a non-citizen, or we don't even really know who they are, where they came from. It's 1 out of 5, 1 out of 5. And it's terrible. The results are terrible. And they're just beyond belief. I actually talked to somebody from out there today. They were talking to somebody, oh, well, yeah, but could that be true? Come on. It's like, yeah, this is how bad it is. Your voter rolls suck, and therefore your elections suck. This was of people that voted, not just the voter rolls.
Right. And again, this goes back to what what we now know to be true. Doge is uncovering massive fraud, right? In just people that don't even really exist for jobs. I mean, I don't even know where this money's going. I can't wait till we actually get to the bottom of that dark cloud of a rainbow, whatever that is going to look like. But I have a feeling it's going to be funneling right back into Pelosi and Schiff and all these demons out there, the Clintons. I mean, the usual band of thieves that we have become accustomed to to just having to tolerate at this point. I don't understand why there's no arrests over there. That's a separate conversation. But again, the wide open border, the fact that under the Joe Biden regime, when he was installed, the first thing Michael Yon did was go to the Darien Gap and look at the problem down there. He's down there right now. In fact, Laura Logan just landed last night. They're still looking at what's going on down there. Of course, Panama back in the news with Hegseth showing up and giving a blistering speech about, the strategic partnership between Panama and the United States. Hooray, we're going to start to take control. And I would say we're going to effectuate a Trump doctrine down there. But that wide open border has created such a problem from the ITIN numbers that were established, individual taxpayer identification numbers, and that comes straight out of the mouths of a very high up source inside the IRS who was sharing with me information that was absolutely mind blowing when I was getting it about these, IRS agents that were being told from the top to issue individual taxpayer identification numbers to these illegals. I believe 30 million were actually, given out, which is startling on that face of it right there of itself. But then to understand that they were just being waved in, first of all, breaking Article 4, Section 4, the law, right, of coming across our border, not through a Custom and Border Protection checkpoint, but just streaming across wherever they felt like it, being granted Social Security numbers and the ability to actually profit $2,200 a month without contributing anything into the system. We were worried about the system going bankrupt. Now we just know they've been stealing from it left and right. So this is all a mounting issue. And, Florida claims to be the free state, and we have the gold standard for election integrity. Well, I can tell you, talking to SOEs and talking to a lot of election integrity groups, we're not the gold standard. We have big problems here under the hood as well. And, if we don't get a handle on this, and if we continue to move down and kicking the can down the road like the Florida GOP wants us to do, specifically Tallahassee, which is just disgraceful with this election integrity bill under the Trump name, this is Trump's election integrity bill. President Trump has nothing to do with this, but they want to say, don't worry, we're going to now, we will audit the actual vote with machines. We're not even going to do hand counted audits, nothing like that. We're going to do none of that. Everything is going to be facilitated by machines because we don't want you to look under the hood to see, in fact, who voted. Because if we actually know who voted, Joe, we're going to find out we have millions of illegals voting. And that's what, in fact, is being discovered as we speak. So this is, wow, we have major problems and we have short time to fix it.
Yeah. And here we have Republicans doing that. I've heard a word that Missouri did the same thing over the weekend, push through an election integrity bill that's garbage, just
right.
The opposite. And this is a red state, maybe 80% Trump. And yet these people running that state they're just not on our side. Same with Florida. Florida's huge Trump. And you see these bills that you scratch your head. I know some people have been pushing through some good bills that really made a lot of sense. Those were ignored for these bills that they're going against what President Trump says. Even I played it in the first segment here when Trump talked about that Krebs. He's doing an investigation on Chris Krebs now, and he's taking away his security clearance. He talks about him. He says, what was the point I was going to make? God, I lost my mind again. But he was. I did this during my talk the other day too. I think I'm just so wiped out. I can't even. I'm so tired.
We're all wiped out.
I know it, and but it's something about Krebs and in his talk, in his points with Krebs, he's talking about the election. He's saying what we want is paper ballots. We want voter rolls to make sense. He said paper ballots, though, one day election. He certainly is not saying anything about any machines. And then here we have Florida, then, like you're saying, stepping in and passing a bill talking about using machines to even do the audit, which is outrageous. Again, none of this stuff, this is the point. If you've been an IT auditor in a corporation and see what they do, I don't see how any of this stuff passes. I just don't see it. It's too loose, no chain of custody, and I don't think you'd ever certify this stuff.
Well, again, I look at the executive order, and we talked about it at the event in St. Louis. I mean, this executive order from President Trump is saying, if these machines aren't certified, if election machines aren't certified, we're not going to use them. They will not be used in an election. Therefore, we have to default to paper ballots. That's fantastic. But there's more loopholes that need to be closed down. For instance, like Arizona, the state of the election season, they a month prior to an actual federal election, there you can go in and early vote. These types of things I think need to be really I know it's a state, the state's rights to do this, but between mail-in ballots, drop-off locations, those Zuckerbucks mail-in, drop-off locations are still, in power here in Palm Beach County. There's one right by the courthouse. And so that is just an opportunity to manufacture paper ballots. And we know about Runbeck. We know what Runbeck was doing, right? We know about the fact that there was supposed to be special paper, and then Jovan Hutton Pulitzer proved they never used the special paper. So there's just so many loopholes that if we don't dial this in and get very specific in the language with these executive orders, we're going to be have our elections stolen again. And again, President Trump can't be responsible, personally, for every single T and I, right? He can't cross every T and I because he's depending on the experts. But what I think you and I are learning here in very short order, and hopefully the rest of the public, is the experts are bought off, and the experts are being, paid to do and give advice on crafting executive orders to leave these loopholes in place so that yet again we can have stolen elections, or they can ensure that the people they need to get in are the ones that are getting in. It's it was played out beautifully for them in 2020. We saw what they did, but we haven't been able to get rid of the rot inside the machine that allowed them to get away with what they did in 2020. And again, I say to the public, Pam Bondi, the American people have done the research. Where are the arrests? This is open source intelligence at this point, and we still don't have any arrests with some of these people. We should have very high profile arrests.
I mentioned your tweet where you said not Gulf of America, but Gulf of no arrests yet, or arrest somebody, whatever it was. Yeah. It was hilarious. So true. Arrest somebody. Everybody's saying just arrest somebody. Give us something. And but that's how we felt with Bill Barr and John Durham too. And then they arrest this Kleinsmith. He gets off basically scot-free. And there we were. That was it. And that was it. And we're supposed to accept that as a coup d'etat went against our president. Good people like General Flynn and George Papadopoulos and Roger Stone get caught up in it, get attacked, get destroyed, and bankrupted. And no big deal. Let's just move on. Kleinsmith, he lied about one document, so we'll move on. It was just, right. We don't want that this time.
No.
At all.
And we shouldn't. There's no reason why we should stand for it. But again, we are now being forced to recognize our judicial system is utterly corrupt. It's completely rotten from the inside out. We don't have a real judicial system. And it falls back again on who? We, the people, to stand up and point this out and actually do something about this. And, one of the things that we're working on with the American Made Action organization that we have stood up, Maureen Steele and myself are the co-founders, is we are actually getting together this week, and we're writing more federal lawsuits where we're going to be going after the corrupt judiciary, specifically in the family law courts. And we're going to zero in on a couple of states. I'm not going to drop it yet, but we have 2 states that we're already looking at very closely based on CPS fraud that they're doing. And it's just literally liquidating the trusts of people to basically monetize their little cabal of people that profit off family separation. There is no incentive when you have Title IV money coming out of the Social Security Administration funding judges, funding prosecutors, funding the family counselors, funding the CPS organizations in all 50 states. When you have funding foster care homes, funding, there's no financial, there's a significant financial incentive, I should say, to separate the families. There's no other incentive to actually keep them together and provide the help that they need. As in North Carolina, when families lost their homes, CPS comes in and says, you can't live in a tent or you can't live in a hotel because that's not a suitable environment for your children. So we are going to take the kids. And the sad part of it is, and this is a part, excuse me, that nobody wants to believe, is just that we signed the rights away the title, if you will, through this birth certificate fraud to make the child a ward of the state. This is what gives them the leverage. And this is the part that people get their minds blown when they think about, well, I was just signing, paperwork. Little Johnny has a birth certificate. It says his date and time and weight. And isn't this great? And we frame it, whatever. No, what you did was you actually, like your certificate of title for your vehicle, the state can impound your car if you don't pay your parking tickets because you gave them certificate of title. They actually hold your title. And this is what a birth certificate is. It's the same thing. The state actually owns the property of your child. And so it's astonishing that this has been hidden in plain sight for decades. And now it's coming out. But now this is what are we going to do about this? So this is when, jural assemblies are forming all over the country, Joe, and people are starting to realize, you know what, we the people can stand up a grand jury if we want to. We don't need a judge to appoint us or a state prosecutor. We can do it ourselves. The problem is sheriffs are part of that corporation in that county, and they may or may not want to stand up and defend the Constitution, which is, you, the people. So this is where it's going to get a little more interesting. And this is when we talk about provost marshals and, what are the other alternatives of law enforcement we have when we know somebody's done something wrong and we've indicted them through a grand jury and we want to arrest them. This is where the country is having to get an education quickly. And I'm hoping that President Trump, with all the things he's doing, is going to facilitate the shall we say, the cleanup of the judicial system. But I think he's really going to need us to step in and do our part as well.
Absolutely. That's really interesting stuff. Yeah. A lot's coming out. As a matter of fact, I've got some data I've been sitting on since last week. I just couldn't get through it over the weekend, but information out of Wisconsin. There was rooms in the election in Milwaukee that were blocked off. Nobody could go in there. What's going on? See this kind of lack of transparency is like, that's why nothing's certifiable. You can't, as an auditor, if you were in that situation, you say, well, anything coming in or out of that room, I can't make an opinion on because I don't know what happened. And that's what you do. And we didn't do that in 2020. Even that audit in Maricopa, I found out later, about a year later, that they moved all those ballots over to the floor. The first 3 days, every single box on every single ballot that they opened, which was about 25% of all the ballots, every single box had been opened, the seals broken. Now, as an auditor, I'd be done. I'd be saying, okay, 25% of the votes here, or the ballots, I have no chain of custody on because, the seals are broke. I was a bank auditor. We had seals all the time. If they're broke, it's a huge deal. It's not a little, it's a huge deal. People get fired over that. And but in that election, no big deal. We're just moving on. We'll keep counting. I mean, they counted those. They count them after they've been broken. So this lack of transparency is such a huge deal, whether it be with the JFK files or any of this stuff. Epstein files. I had Tom Renz here last week talking on my show about why haven't we gotten this Epstein stuff? We've got crooks walking around right now, dangerous people. Why are we not releasing this information? Are we going to all just forget about it again? So we really need more from Pam and Cash and Dan Bongino. We need it right now. There's some serious stuff.
What do you make of Cash? I know he was sort of the acting ATF director. He has been replaced. Have you looked into the gentleman that's replacing him? Do you have a pulse on that?
No. Do you know? You heard
No,
anything?
I haven't had a chance to look into it. It was just, he was made acting ATF director, and I'm sure they were just scrambling to try and find somebody to replace him. Look, that swamp is, every single level underneath director all the way down is corrupt.
This is my thought too, Ann, and maybe, I'm anxious in your thoughts too. Why are these people in the FBI and DOJ still there? Why are there so many? Because those agencies are, like you said, they are corrupt to the core. It needs to be cleaned out. Maybe shut down.
Well, I thought that's what Cash was doing. I saw him on the Sean Ryan show, which got millions of views, and he talked about turning it into a museum. I mean, I've said I would make DC a Holocaust museum and give free docent tours going from agency to agency, counting the ways that they were criminally acting against we the people, and just lay it out for people, because you can go from any agency and show how they were anti the people. So I don't know when Cash changed his mind, what changed his mind, who changed his mind, but something changed his mind, because now he's hiring more people. And to me, that's terrifying, because if we don't fix this system and we don't get real elections where we have a pulse of the true nature of our country, what we really believe, they're going to steal the next one. And I can assure you, while they may not, based on statute of limitations, be able to go after the J6ers, they will find something else to go after us for. I mean, they perfected lawfare.
Yeah, and once the monsters take full control, there is no mercy. I heard somebody say that in a tweet a month or two ago. There's no mercy when the communists and fascists take over. You're done. But we saw that with January 6th. We saw them just, we saw that with anybody that stood up against this election. You're going to get hammered. You're going to get threatened. You're going to, I had Dominion send me a letter personally telling me, don't say anything about us or we're coming after you. Right after they sue Sidney Powell for $1 billion, so that's the kind of stuff they do. It's scary times. We're not past it by any means.
Joe, I was getting death threats the night I spoke at the event.
No way.
I put them on X. I was getting death threats.
Wow.
Yeah. And it was very obvious about who they're coming from, because the death threats were a direct attribute to a personal face-to-face conversation I was having days before in Scottsdale at an Airbnb with Maureen Steele. And we were talking specifically about an individual, where they worked at Ethan Allen and some other stuff. And they referenced, when I asked, who is this? They said, Ethan Allen. And then they made a reference to something about our conversation. And I was like, oh my heavens. And that was just because our phones were in the room. So this is, and only the intelligence community has access to that, right? Let's be clear.
Wow.
So the stuff that we're doing has them so rattled right now. And, I guess we just got to tape our ankles and keep going, Joe.
That's right. You're right. You're absolutely right. And you do great work. How can people find you and support you?
Thank you so much. Just my website, annvandersteel.com. It has links to all my social media and the work that we're doing. If you're interested in supporting the actual lawsuits and the lawfare that we have attorneys for, you can go to AmericanMadeAction.org.
That's great. Thanks, Ann. Thanks for everything. Thanks for coming on, supporting Tina and all of us
Always.
here. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. And I'll be back on the Joe Hoft Show here in moments. So hang tight, take a little break, and hopefully we'll see you in a few minutes. Thanks for joining us today. God bless. Tina Peters. Talk to you soon.
Hi, Tina Peters here.
See, today they go after you if you're investigating that sort of thing.